Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Day one, as I said yesterday and as I said throughout the campaign, on day one, I would declare a state of emergency. I actually haven't even been to City Hall yet. It shows the people of Los Angeles that we are united and serious about the city's crisis of homelessness. To the nonprofit service providers that are here, thank you for being here. You're on the front lines with the people, saving lives, and we must work together as true partners, and moving forward, we will. I am proud to be joined by Supervisor and President, Chairwoman of the County Board of Supervisors, Janice Hahn, the President of the City Council, Paul Krikorian, the Pro Tem of the City Council, Curran Price, the Chairwoman of the Housing and Homeless Committee, Nithya Raman, and providers throughout our city, as well as all of the general managers. I started this first day as your mayor, leading the meeting that just concluded with the heads of our city departments and those of the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority and LA Metro, to brief them on the emergency declaration that I'm about to sign and to start our collective work to solve the homelessness crisis. My mandate is to move Los Angeles in a new direction with an urgent and strategic approach to solving one of our city's toughest challenges and creating a brighter future for every Angeleno. Today, on my first day of office, we hit the ground running with a sea change in how the city tackles homelessness, declaring a state of emergency and activating the Emergency Operations Center. I will not accept a homelessness crisis that afflicts more than 40,000 Angelenos and affects every one of us. It is a humanitarian crisis that takes the life of 5 people every day. In every neighborhood, we can see the failures of the status quo: despair, desperation, human suffering. And our children are growing up knowing nothing else than this. It must stop, and change starts now. My emergency declaration unlocks tools and powers to make sure we are using every resource possible at the scale that is needed to save lives and restore our neighborhoods. There will be no holding back on my watch. The death rate and mass displacement of LA's homelessness crisis exceeded those of our most tragic natural disasters like the Northridge earthquake and Hurricane Harvey. It is long overdue that we have declared it an emergency, and my administration will address it through an emergency structure by activating the Emergency Operations Center. An effective strategy against homelessness cannot be run like just any other city function. We will increase the scale and speed of the city's approach to homelessness by removing it from the traditional City Hall way of doing things. Instead, my administration's work against homelessness will be driven urgently and strategically through the incredibly effective emergency management way of doing things. People still talk about how fast we rebuilt the freeways after the Northridge earthquake. It's because those projects were not run through the traditional process. They were run through an emergency structure like the one we are harnessing today. We must drive a proactive citywide strategy that solves problems at scale and ultimately drives a solution. This is what this is all about. This is part of a seismic shift we're making to solve the homelessness crisis. We must bring people indoors faster, and we will. We must build housing faster, and we will. We must coordinate shelter and services, and we will. We must have coordination among the city officials and the city departments, and we will, because we are doing things differently. And you can see by who's together in this room today. The actions we are creating today, the structure necessary for Los Angeles to finally have a comprehensive and citywide approach to homelessness. I have already been working with members of the City Council, the City Attorney, City Controller, and members of the County Board of Supervisors during the transition, and I will work closely with them as mayor. If different levels of government are pursuing different strategies to homelessness, even more lives will be lost. Los Angeles will be lost. Instead, I will lead a citywide strategy that marshals resources, creates accountability, and drives results, and that is at the core of a regional strategy. The executive order that I will sign in the coming days to create the Inside Safe program will create a citywide approach to tackling encampments and street homelessness, to provide people with housing and services, and to restore our public spaces. It builds upon the encampment to home model that we have seen work in individual locations. This declaration of emergency will allow us to take this individual location approach and take it to scale and build a citywide, proactive, strategic, rapid housing model. The foundation of coordination among the city, county, and service providers gives us the launch path to more. But we know the only way to make this work is to have housing solutions lined up and ready to go. They must be immediately available. They must be located near the same community where the unhoused individuals live, and they must be coupled with real efforts of permanent housing, because temporary housing needs to be just that, temporary. To do that, we will launch an aggressive unit acquisition strategy, master leasing apartments and motel rooms across the city. But when someone accepts an offer to live temporarily in a motel, they should be right in line for a permanent home of their own. That's how the system is supposed to work. So we'll pair Inside Safe with our work to fast track the opening of HHH, Home Key, and other permanent homes, and I will make sure that we respond to the voters' approval of Measure ULA with careful stewardship of those funds by not repeating the slow timelines and high costs that have caused frustration with other efforts. This is my first day as mayor. It is a start of a new, urgent, and sustained approach to our greatest challenge. Again, thank you all for joining, and now we will sign the declaration, and we'll have other speakers.
Folks, give us a moment.
Okay.
Hold it up. Hold it up. Hold it up.
All ready? All right. Look this way, please. This way. All right, we're going to take the table now.
Next.
And also, please take the resolution and get it delivered to council,
Yes.
please.
I know.
Little space management. Let me also recognize our city controller, Kenneth Mejia, and city attorney, Heidi Feinstein Soto. I think that this is emblematic of a new day, of how we are all going to work together, focused on the emergency and the crisis that our city faces. As I mentioned, had a very brief transition period, just 3 weeks. But how I spent my 3 weeks was by meeting with everybody who is here, all of the elected officials, so that we can have a unified approach. So Los Angeles is now in a state of emergency in regard to the homelessness crisis. The Emergency Operations Center is now activated, and we are now driving a comprehensive and citywide encampment strategy through Inside Safe. This is a monumental shift for Los Angeles, but it is one necessary to save lives, to restore neighborhoods, and to change the future of our city. And we can only do that if we all work together with a unified approach. And that is why it is so important that the county board chair, Janice Hahn, the city attorney, the city controller, the council president, and council members are here today, along with our city department heads and partners from outside of government. Board Chair Hahn, I am excited for this new day of collaboration between the city and county, and let me call on Supervisor Hahn to speak. Thank you, folks. Thank you.
I'm not going to touch it. Thank you. Let's remember, this is day one for Mayor Bass. You know, forget about the first 100 days. Day one, you are making such a great action for our city, and you're doing exactly what you promised the voters and what this situation demands, treating the homelessness crisis with the urgency that it demands. People's lives are on the line, and I appreciate what Mayor Bass did, that she did not waste a moment to get to work. The emergency declaration is important, as are the policies Mayor Bass will implement in the coming days and months that double down on the strategies we know work, like master leasing and moving entire encampment communities inside together. The homelessness crisis is not the city of Los Angeles' problem, or the county's problem, or the state's problem to solve alone. This is a crisis that demands all of our attention, our cooperation, and our resources. And as Mayor Bass said yesterday in her speech, we need to link arms rather than point fingers. As the chair of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, I stand ready to be a partner with the new mayor in this effort. In the coming weeks, I will be putting forward a motion in the county that will ensure that our resources, especially mental health and health care, can be brought to bear and match the urgency of this emergency declaration. Mayor Bass, thank you for inviting me to join you, and thank you for bringing this renewed vigor to a battle that we have been fighting way too long. Let's get to work.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And let me now introduce the President of our City Council, Paul Krikorian.
Thank you very much, Mayor Bass. And I just can't say how important the symbolism of this moment is. The fact that the city is turning a new page now with a new mayor, with new council members, 3 new citywide elected officials. We have an opportunity to start with a clean slate in addressing a challenge that has been the #1 challenge that the city has had for so many years. And we're doing it here today. Mayor Bass, your first action as mayor is happening here at the Emergency Operations Center, a place where this city brings its resources together to respond to earthquakes and other sorts of catastrophic events. And we do it incredibly effectively. The city is known throughout the world for its emergency response. Well, now, starting today, under Mayor Bass, we are going to bring that same vigor, that same sense of urgency, that same gathering of resources to respond to this emergency as well, the humanitarian emergency that 40,000 people are suffering from tonight, and that neighborhoods everywhere in Los Angeles are sharing in that catastrophe as well. So, Mayor Bass, the fact that you are bringing this sense of urgency on your very first action as mayor should send a message loud and clear to the people of Los Angeles. Help is on the way. It is about time that we get things done. In government, and frankly, in many of our neighborhoods, it's too easy to say no to things. It's too easy to say, well, no, that solution isn't my solution. That solution is only temporary, it's not permanent. That solution is too expensive. That solution doesn't provide that particular person with everything they need, so the alternative is to leave that person on the streets. That kind of thinking has to end, and it is going to end today. Because with this emergency resolution, what we're going to be able to do is start saying yes to things that make common sense. And so, Mayor Bass, tomorrow in council, the council will be taking up this resolution, and I very much hope and expect that all of my colleagues will be joining with you in this, supporting your resolution, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate that you've worked in such close partnership with us even before your first day as mayor, and I know that partnership is going to continue and create great successes in the months and years to come. Thank you very much, Mayor Bass.
Let me just take a moment and thank all of the general managers that showed up this morning bright and early, probably with 24 hours notice. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate your work. And it was the first time I had an opportunity to meet you. And I look forward to working with you and know how hard you work for this city day in and day out. I also want to thank all the service providers that are here because you are on the front lines. You do the work every day. And one thing that I think that we need to lift up in this time period is that we do have people that know how to work with this population. But their work needs to be known by the Los Angeles community, the work that they do day in and day out. And I just want to thank all of you for being here.
Questions, and we're going to start right here with Josh.
Hello, Madam Mayor. First question for you. Recently, you told me that your team is working to identify some of the most troublesome encampments and that you plan to clear those encampments, house those individuals. Where are you at in that? Is that going to happen this week?
Yes.
And which encampments and where will those people go?
So we will be, the program will be called Inside Safe. And again, it builds on the work that many of these providers have been doing day in and day out. What we hope to do is to take their work to a greater scale. And so we'll be having another announcement in the next couple of days about Inside Safe, and we'll go through the whole program, identify the geographic locations and all of that.
And where are you at in finding housing for those folks that will be impacted?
We'll announce that too, but what you should know is that our plan is to use master leasing with motels that are in the nearby vicinity. And we've already been in touch with the owners of those motels. We know that they're open to doing that, identifying the resources and all. And again, the reason why it's so important that Chairwoman Hahn is here is because, you know, getting people housed on day one is critical. Services on day one is also critical. That's why having the partnership with the county from day one will allow us to really serve folks. Now, we have people temporarily housed in motels and hotels, but at the same time, to use the emergency order to fast track building, because the point is that you're going to be in a motel that is temporary. And one of the problems that we've had is that temporary winds up running out. And then people are, you know, hopefully sent to permanent supportive housing, but sometimes not. So we hope to remedy that.
Second question to Phil.
Oh, hi.
Who's Phil? Hi, Phil.
Hi. So, other than, if you could clarify, I understand the added sense of urgency, but I'm not quite sure what is different today versus Friday.
Well, having an emergency order, having all of the general managers here, and the message that went out to the general managers was, we want to know from you, what are your roadblocks? What is holding you back so that we can move that aside? So using the emergency order as our ability to fast track things and to fast track the building. And we all know about the challenges that if somebody who is a developer wants to come and build affordable housing, it winds up costing a lot of money because of the delays, because of the roadblocks, because of the barriers. So that is what is different from Friday to today. We will begin working on this as soon as the emergency, well, actually me signing it, puts it in order.
Is this from your general managers of what the quote-unquote roadblocks are?
Well, what I asked them to do was to go back and identify them. I'm sure they already know them. This was a brief meeting, but they will be coming back and telling us department by department, what is your specific roadblock? Is it a regulation? Is it a law? How can we move it? How can we relax it?
But on my block today, what are you doing today that's going to get that person into housing faster?
In the next couple of days, we will be unveiling the program that will deal with that encampment, and it's called Inside Safe. So stay tuned, give us a couple of days, and we will let you know about the next part of it.
Question right here.
Mayor Michelle Vias, are you optimistic that this is going to look different than years ago? Just nail it home again. We passed an emergency proclamation. $100 million went to this homelessness issue. Is it the fast track that's really going to look different this time?
Well, it's my understanding that a state of emergency was not declared for homelessness. Actually, as far as I know, I think the last time that happened was under Mayor Bradley, and it was weather related. This time, we have weather, we have an increase in COVID, and we have 40,000 people out on the street.
Last question right here, Ben.
Two quick questions. On the master leasing side, talking to these providers for years, they talk about there weren't enough beds rented through PRK. Do you have a goal in mind for how many beds you'd like to see leased or bought? And then secondly, the emergency order you're going to sign, I think the real power comes from expediting the dispensation of money. Do you have a sense of how many dollars you want seen made available for you that you can use in this very short period to use in any different way?
I mean, I could give you a range, but it's more important that when we unveil Inside Safe, we will go through that. So under $100 million.
Under $100 million.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.